Abraham Lincoln ascended to the presidency in 1860, but with this great power came a great shadow, a curse that would haunt his progeny and thrice steal the lives of those who held his office in years thereafter. Lincoln was the first to fall, assassinated in 1865 by the traitorous bullet of John Wilkes Booth. The 16th president had led the nation through civil war, freed the slaves, and laid the groundwork for reconciliation. Yet bitterness lingered in the wake of bloody conflict, and Lincoln met a tragic end just days after the South's surrender. His death, however, would only be the beginning. The curse would follow Lincoln's own flesh and blood for over a century, becoming intertwined with the very office he had once occupied. His son Robert Todd Lincoln, while spared his father's violent fate, seemed perpetually stalked by the Grim Reaper himself. Eerily, Robert was present or close by when 3 different presidents were shot. After Garfield was slain in 1881, Robert declined an invitation to accompany Vice President Arthur. He claimed he did so to avoid more speculation about his curse, as people had already begun whispering. In 1901, President McKinley was assassinated at the World Fair in Buffalo. By strange coincidence, Robert had been invited to the event and was standing just feet away when McKinley was gunned down. Some began to wonder if Robert was a living omen of doom. Robert also averted tragedy in 1912 when he changed plans to accompany his friend George on a voyage aboard the RMS Titanic. The famous ship sank after striking an iceberg, killing over 1,500 souls. The Lincoln family itself was not immune to the curse's cruelty. Abraham's youngest son, Tad, passed at just 18 years old, leading to a string of horrors for Tad's brother Jack. One girlfriend stabbed Jack during a wild rage. Another later died by suicide. Robert's daughter Mary Lincoln Isham saw her husband commit suicide just 4 years after their wedding. Robert's last descendant, his grandson Robert Todd Lincoln Beckwith, died in 1985, ending the Lincoln family bloodline. Yet Robert lived to be 82, avoiding his father's grim fate. The same could not be said of presidents elected in years ending in 0. Starting with Lincoln in 1860, elected presidents Lincoln, Garfield, McKinley, Harding, Franklin Roosevelt, and John F. Kennedy all perished while in office. For Kennedy, the most striking parallel was the timing. Like Lincoln, Kennedy was elected 100 years later in 1960. Both were handsome, eloquent young presidents who brought hope and energy to the White House. Both were assassinated by gunshot while beside their wives, just 6 years into their first terms. Other presidents like Warren Harding, elected in 1920, and Franklin Roosevelt in 1940, also died in office as if on cursed cue. The only exception was Ronald Reagan, elected in 1980, who survived an assassin's bullet in 1981 due to modern medicine. When Robert's last direct descendant died in 1985, some believed the family finally freed from death's cruel clutches. But others whisper the curse lives on, patiently biding its time to claim the next cycle of 20-year presidents. Perhaps it is merely coincidence, a series of random tragedies exaggerated by lore and superstition, or perhaps some malevolent force truly did intend for Lincoln and his successors to suffer, using chance and fate as its instruments of destruction. We cannot know for sure, but the shadow of death forever looms, waiting to strike once again when the dreaded 0 year comes next.